Okay everyone, welcome to our third game in our series of battles between the Prussians and the French in Germany in 1813, following the defeat in Russia. The French army is trying to reform in advance of the battles in Leipzig and Dresden. And what we are currently playing out is an attempt by the French to relieve one of their surrounded garrisons. We've played a couple of scenarios so far, with the French trying to disrupt the Prussian siege lines and being unsuccessful in their attempts of breaking the Prussian siege of the town. What we're currently playing in this scenario is the French building up their forces in advance of a major attack. So we'll play that out as a big Prussia versus French game. Probably not for another couple of months because I'm still painting some Landwehr units up and I want to add them to my Prussian force before we get on to that portion of the game. But we'll play this third small scenario, which has the French having to escort a supply column across this particular piece of terrain. So they're starting here on the southern edge of the board. They currently hold this small river crossing. And as you can see here, their skirmishers are currently providing overwatch against the crossing point. They're just about to send a couple of small regiments of hussars. These are my newly painted hussars, so they're another further outing for them. They're going to provide a screen, and then we have a small column which will comprise 3 trained battalions of French troops, so better quality troops in this game, and a couple of caissons, which will represent the supplies they're looking to escort. They've got to get them across the river here and through this small village, and then across this open terrain. They've got to ford this small stream. I will make that passable at half speed to the caissons, possibly quarter speed. Then they have got to traverse the rest of this open plain and then exit the board through this pass in this edge of more mountainous terrain. Opposing them, we have an advancing Prussian brigade. This is our redoubtable Landwehr, who've performed so well in the previous games. We'll see whether they can do so well this time. Another confrontation with French cavalry facing them, see if they can do any better than they did, or do as well as they did against the French chasseurs in the previous game. And they're supported there by a battalion of I'll need to check the scenario rules, but they're either veterans or regulars. The veterans or regulars are in a second brigade. They do have a second battalion, which is a Fusilier battalion, and that one is deployed in cover on another part of the table. So until the two join up, the other battalion won't be able to get any orders, but it will be able to fire from its concealed positions, and its intention and its deployment is to delay the French advance and allow the Prussian forces time to deploy. In addition, also attached to the line brigade, we have this small unit of Prussian lancers, which again will come into command when they're in command radius of the brigadier of the regular brigade. Right, so again, another small game, another one where we'll see how good General d'Armée rules are at these relatively small scales, but I've been really pleased so far on how the games have played out. Again, as always, please subscribe to the channel if you enjoy what you're watching. Leave us comments, really appreciate the comments, even when you spot that I've got things wrong, and hey, I get plenty of stuff wrong and I know that. I was having a chat with one of the subscribers this morning about the fact that I keep forgetting who's got initiative, so that does feel like something I need to do something about. So I'm going to try and find an initiative marker so I can put that next to the commanding general of the side that has initiative for the turn, and that way hopefully I won't get them muddled up. Anyway, really appreciate the comments and love to see all the inspiration everyone's getting from seeing these figures on the terrain, and I love just having a chance to get them out and have a play. I have to say I'm really enjoying these small games. They don't take a whole day to film, and they don't take a whole day to get everything out and put it away, which also makes it go down better with the family. All right, but we will be back to some bigger games in the near future, I hope. Hopefully film some of those during the upcoming Easter break. All right, thanks very much, everyone, and we'll get on with the game and turn one. Okay, so we'll kick off with ADCs. Let's see whether both sides get 2 ADCs. So the French activates both their brigades. Only one brigade is available for the Prussians. Or one ADC is available for the Prussians. We'll have a think about where to allocate those, and then we'll roll for brigade activation. Okay, so the Prussians have gone a re-roll on their regulars because they want to be able to move their commander and try and activate their cavalry as quickly as possible. So they do need the re-roll. The regulars go hesitant. That's unfortunate for the Prussians. And the Landwehr are active. All right, and then let's roll for the French. We did think about putting a forwards unit on the infantry brigade with the supply wagons, just to try and get it across the table, but I wouldn't have had any spare dice and wouldn't have had a re-roll for it, and I could have well just log-jammed myself in the village. So I don't want to do that. In the end, I've decided to go re-rolls for both. So let's roll for the line battalion and then for the cavalry. Both are active for the French. So French will have a +1 on the initiative roll. All right, the French clearly have initiative. We'll find a counter to mark that, and then we'll get on with turn one. Okay, so the French cavalry has moved out. The Hussars have swung across this fence line to start screening against the potential Prussian attack from over here on the right. And in the centre, the first of the French supply wagons has arrived on table, and the infantry have started to move up to the ford, still screened by their skirmishers. Alright, it's now for the Prussians. Charlie's turned up, so we'll see where the Prussians are going to move. Okay, so despite being hesitant, Charlie's been able to move all of his brigades because he's not actually moving them any closer to the enemy, and hesitant simply stops you advancing close to the enemy. So he's moved his regular brigade down to the right across the front of the hills towards the pass. So he's starting to establish, get his positions in units in the right place to establish a blocking position. He's also moved his commander of the regular brigade across, so he's got his cavalry in command radius for next turn, and he's also detached one of his Landwehr battalions to take up a position on that hill on the far left-hand flank. So that's it for turn one. I've also allowed Charlie to do a minor adjustment with his skirmishers here, so they haven't really moved. They've come from their concealed positions, and I did move them forward ever so slightly, so they weren't deep within the woods, but they've now reached the edge of the wood line, so they will be able to open fire on the French units moving through the village. Alright, we'll do some skirmisher firing, that will be it for this turn, and then we'll be on to turn two. Unfortunately for the French cavalry, they've gone hesitant, so they won't be able to move, but the French were able to move their main brigade. For the Prussians, everything went active. So let's roll for initiative in this turn. Again, the French get initiative despite their -1, and we'll move out first. Alright, we're at turn 3 now, and French have both brigades active, but the Prussians have their Landwehr hesitant. So we test at -1. Prussians do get initiative. Alright, we'll see what they do in turn 3. So Charlie's deployed the Landwehr now and the regulars into line. He's got no depth to his formation, so this could be a challenge for the Prussians this time. He's thrown his skirmisher screen forward, and he's deployed his lancers into line as well, to give them the maximum frontage and best possible chance against the French troops. Alright, we'll now do movement for the French. So in turn 3, the French Hussars continue to make their way across these various obstacles, the rough terrain, the streams and the hedgeline. They're now getting close to engagement range with the Prussian lancers. The French columns are still making their way towards the pass and those opposing Prussian Landwehr. The supply wagons are starting to move up, and the French skirmishers are continuing to engage with the Prussian skirmishers in those trees. Alright, not much happened so far, but it's going to hot up soon as everything gets into range. Alright, let's move on with turn 4. Again, unfortunately for the French, they rolled no ADCs and their light cavalry has gone hesitant, and the Prussians have initiative. We might see a charge this turn. The Prussians will have to take a casualty to charge across the stream. Alright, So Prussians have initiative. I will remember to move my marker. Unfortunately for the French, they can't opportunity charge, as you cannot be hesitant and launch an opportunity charge. So the Prussians will succeed in declaring a charge and not being intercepted as they go into these hussars. All right, we'll do that charge result now. Okay, so both sides have thrown their brigadiers in, so they will knock one another out, but the Landwehr will count as campaign cavalry, so that'll be +1 for the French, and the Landwehr are 1 morale level lower as well. So this will be +2 for the French. Okay, so the Prussians get a 5 and the French get an 8, which goes to a 10. So the French have won by 5, so at -3 to -5. The attacker melees unformed and the defender countercharges with a lan. This could be bad news for the lancers. Okay, so the French forces are starting to pile up here. Get ready for the assault. They're in the peak of their bottleneck between this high ground, this other rough ground here. So they need to move forward from this position if they're going to make progress. Their 2 supply wagons are now on the table, and their final reinforcing infantry battalion is here. They're still holding off the Prussian skirmishers in those woods. The Prussians themselves have started to deploy their line a bit more tightly. The Landwehr on the left are starting to swing round to create an enfilade opportunity against the potential attacking French columns against the Landwehr in the centre. The regulars have moved across the stream. The French, however, have taken the opportunity to move forward rapidly with this hussar regiment. It took a casualty because it went at full speed across the streams, but it's done that relying on its fellows here to take out the Prussian lancers. So we've got a potential outflanking opportunity for the French here and a threat against this end of the Prussian line. Right, that's the end of turn 4. Let's move on with turn 5. Alright, Charlie, if you could roll for your skirmish fire from the woods. You've got 5 bases, that's 4 dice normally, but 3 because you're firing against skirmishers. So 3 dice, please, Charlie, against the French skirmish screen.
Okay.
Get any casualties?
2 skirmishes.
2 skirmish casualties. French get to fire back. They've only got 2 bases now because they lost a base last turn. 1 casualty for the French.
But they took...
So the Prussians lose a base and the French take 2 casualties. Yeah. Alright, Charlie's now firing his skirmishers against the head of that French column. So we go, that's 3 dice for 3 bases.
Casualty.
1 casualty against the French column.
Skirmishers will be
We'll mark that up, and now we're on to the critical combat in this turn. Alright, now let's roll this combat. The French get 6 dice because they're a morale grade higher. Charlie, unfortunately, only gets 3. He loses 1 for being unformed, 1 for... and what was the other one for, Charlie? Being a small unit. I lose 1 for being a small unit too.
I get 4 because I had +1 because I'm formed lancers.
You get +1 for being lancers.
Yep. And -1
and you
for...
-1 for being unformed.
Yep, so I'm 4.
And -1 for being small.
Yeah, so I'm 4.
4. And I get 5 to start with. -1 for being small, but +1 for being 1 morale grade better than you. So I'm on 5.
Yeah.
Okay. And I get an extra 1 for a land. 6. Doesn't do anything.
Oh, I got nothing.
I got 4. That's pretty devastating. I win by 4, you'll break. Okay, so the French hussars have taken the ground and they have a strong right flank here. Charlie will have to take a Falter test against his regular brigade because he's got the routing cavalry. Otherwise that's it. That's the end of turn 5. We move on to turn 6. Charlie, let's roll for ADCs. Alright, both French brigades are active. Now a really important roll. We've got a Falter test, Charlie,
But
for your regulars.
Should I roll for this one to be active?
Alright, you're going to roll for those first.
Active.
Okay, so the Landwehr are active. Now the Falter test. No re-roll on this, unfortunately.
I was about to roll and then you were talking. Stopped. That's 3.
A 3. Alright, okay. We'll check what that is on regulars. So that was indeed a retire result. So the Prussian regulars have withdrawn into the mouth of the pass, and unfortunately the lancers have dispersed off the table. Charlie's Landwehr are active, so you'll be testing on -1, Charlie, because you've got 1 hesitant brigade. I get a magnificent 3.
Oh, that was close.
What did you get?
I got 5 -1 is 4.
Okay, so Prussians have initiative in turn 6. Okay, so Charlie's testing to form square. Let's see what you get on this. Remember, it'll be at -1 because you're militia.
Oh,
10.
that's right.
So
So
they
that's
pass.
yeah, they passed it.
So they form square. Alright, so Charlie has successfully formed square, and he'll get passing fire from the supporting battalion as my cavalry charge up. Alright, so this will be an inferior volley, Charlie.
Yeah.
Roll away.
Oh, I've got a 5, that's just nothing.
Okay, a 5, that'll be nothing. It'll be a loss of fire discipline actually for them, but that won't make any difference. Alright, that's it for...
Oh, don't they get to fire when they go in, the inferior?
Yes, you do get to
That's
fire
why I
when
love
I'm at 3
And they were.
inches, and that's the distance I stop at, because squares can only fire at 3-inch range, but you get to do half effect inferior volley. So do the
That's what I love
volley
about
from the square.
That's what I love about the Anvil. They're always inferior.
They are always
so
inferior.
So it doesn't change anything.
Yeah. A 7, that'll be 1 casualty, but halved is nothing. So no casualties from your volleys. Let's do the charge result against the square. I will almost certainly bounce off. Let's just roll the dice. We'll then see if we... With a 9, unless you get a double 1.
I got a 10.
No. Okay, so I will bounce off and fall back, and I think we both take a casualty. Okay, so the firing started. Charlie's going to open fire with his Landwehr against this French column. They did move, but it'll still just be an inferior volley. As Charlie loves saying, his Landwehr always shoot at inferior volley, so they can do whatever they like. All right, let's see how you do, Charlie. Wow, that's not fair. That's an 11. That's 3 casualties and a discipline test against my French column.
-1, they're on
That's
4.
a -1. We roll a 6. It becomes a 5. They go unformed. Okay, so everything's active apart from Charlie's regulars who
just
need
need
to
to get
take their
5 or
full to
6.
test.
I'm going to try and do my normal tactic of getting my wands out of me.
A 5. Well, was that your proper roll, Charlie, or was your
Yes.
normal tactic of getting your ones out of you? All right, this once I'll let you do it. You're not allowed to get your ones out of you. You have to take your rolls as they come. So on a 5 for a line battalion, you obey orders. So your regulars are back in the
And
fight.
if you do try and charge me again, I will be able to form square.
Let's roll for initiative. Charlie, you are all active, so it's just a straight roll off. I get a 6.
I got 6.
Okay, and who had initiative last turn?
Me, barely.
All right, so you retain the initiative, Charlie. Turn 7. All right, the French Chasseurs have decided to charge into this battalion, see if we can break the way through to the pass.
Then I
Okay, Charlie, you've got a chance to form square because I was just over 9 inches away from
How
you.
many casualties do they have?
They've taken 2 casualties.
Okay, I was going to say, I wouldn't do it if they had more, because I could just volley them. I might be able to take them out, but I'm going to try and form square.
Okay, so
because they have-
7 or more.
Yeah. Oh my god,
Double
double
one.
1.
They go
That's-
unformed.
I think they go in, don't they go into square still, but they go unformed?
I think they just go unformed.
I
don't
think they're square unformed.
No, they didn't pass the test. Okay, so
Do I
it went
get
well
to
for the
volley?
Hussars this time. You will get to do an unformed volley, I think, but we'll hang on for a second. So we attempted to form square, and we did realise, just rereading the form square rules, that Charlie's square here couldn't have actually done a volley. I don't think it caused any casualties, so
No, it
it has no effect. If you're trying to form square, you don't get the chance of a volley. So I'm not sure we'll get a volley here, but I'll have a think about that. I might give it to Charlie just to give him a break. So this battalion failed its form square test, and then you have to apply the results of the discipline test you've taken, and they went unformed. So if they are going to do a volley, it will be an unformed volley. Given they were trying to form square, I don't think technically they'll get one, but me and Charlie have a chat. Okay, so this looks like a good result for the French, and this is the dividend for catching a unit in line with cavalry. So the regulars, unfortunately, are -2 because they are unformed, and they're also -2 because they've been caught in line by
I do
cavalry.
get +1 for my general, so it's -3.
This is true, you do have your general attached, so it's -3. Let's see how we do.
Oh
Oh
my
my god, the French get a double
Even
1.
with something they're probably going
This
to
is
win,
looking like
they
that
still
last
do.
game.
They still do fail you somehow.
And you've got a...
8. The French always do try to fail you.
They do, so that goes down to a 5.
Yeah.
So you have won by 3. So I think you repel the attack remarkably. Okay, so we have 2 inferior volleys this turn against the French column as the Prussian landwehr look to try and take the head off the French attack. All right, Charlie, 2 inferior volleys, starting with the one on the hill.
5-0.
Okay, and then the other one?
10.
10, that's pretty good.
That's 3 casualties.
That's 3 casualties and another discipline test. That's, how many casualties are they on now, Charlie?
That is on 7 casualties.
Okay, so this is -1, 5, so they stay unformed, which is not helpful. All right, that's it. I've moved both of my cavalry, well, the right-hand unit's fallen back, but the left-hand French Hussar unit has moved forward.
So next
We
one's
still really need this French light cavalry to get going to destroy this Prussian formation. We're now on to turn 8, Charlie. Only 5 more turns for you to survive, including this one. Right, so the French do have initiative in turn 8. Could you move the counter on to turn 8, Charlie?
Already
Done that? Okay, otherwise, on the left, unfortunately for the French, they've gone hesitant, so they're going to continue get pounding by those landwehr. But we do get a chance with our cavalry to charge, so let's see how we can do this turn. We've got to be able to break these landwehr if we're going to win this game. All right, on we go with charges in turn 8. Okay, so the cavalry have gone in against the Prussian landwehr line. You need to try and form square, Charlie.
Yay!
8. You
Nice
make
one.
it. That's another square for the Prussians.
Going to attach
Do the charge results. No, I'm not going to do anything with a 7.
Wait, if I get a double 6 and +1, will it
Yeah,
do
it'll
something
still be
more?
the same result.
Well, I might as well try and get a double
Yep.
6.
You don't. So we
For a
both take
second
a
I
casualty.
thought. For a
and
second
I
I thought.
retire. Right, so the cavalry are doing some good. They're forcing the more and more of the Prussian line into square. So the volleys against my French trying to cross the stream are reduced. So only 1 volley this turn. Charlie, you're going to fire your landwehr again against the column that's stuck.
If I do 5 casualties, what's impossible, I have to get a double 6.
Let's go.
I will be able to destroy him. I get
8.
8.
You have done really well with your
Yeah.
firing. So an 8 is 2 more casualties against that.
It's
column.
only been with this one
How
battalion on the
many
hill.
casualties has it taken now?
9.
Wow, it's not in great state. Okay, that's the end of turn
Oh,
8.
it's coming with my skirmishes. I was going to move my skirmishes.
Yeah, you can move your skirmishers
I'm
forward.
going to fire.
Yeah, I'll let you fire those skirmishers.
So 3 dice.
3 dice.
Casualty.
Another casualty against my column.
10 casualties.
All right, on we go with next turn. Turn, what are we on now, Charlie? Turn
9.
Okay, so the Prussians have initiative in turn 9. I do have an active Hussar Brigade again, which is great, but unfortunately my French line battalions have again gone hesitant, so us being able to punch through to the pass is looking more and more grim.
I'm going
All
to.
right, Charlie, your chance for charges.
I'm going to see if I can
and then
charge into
movement.
them because.
What, with your landwehr?
Yeah, because you're
Alright.
hesitant.
Okay. Okay, so this is getting a bit desperate. The French Hussars have charged again. They've taken 5 casualties, so it'll be tough. But hopefully, again, the regulars might fail to form square, which will give me a chance. Otherwise, over here, Charlie has charged his landwehr into this French column. That does not bode well for the column. So we will get some defensive fire here from the other French column, which is now in support distance. So we will do that. All right, Charlie, so this will be a regular volley, but it'll be a half effect because I'm firing from within column. We get an 8, which for a standard shot is 3, so that'll be 1 casualty against you
1, 2.
as you come in. Otherwise, I think that is
Yeah.
genuinely a flank attack, so you won't be able to fire. I won't be able to do a defensive volley
Shall I
against you.
Do this one.
And yes, you're going to try and form square with your regulars. Let's see what you get.
Yes!
They form square. But remember, no defensive volley.
Yeah, it's going to come in that way so
You
it's
can
not.
move them so they stand up properly, yeah, and put the commander within it.
Oh no.
I'm sure you can sort it out.
There we go.
Cool, so another French unit.
So the French are
Another
attacking
Prussians
them
forced
as
into
well.
square. But now, let's do the charge results here. This is not good. I have already taken 10 casualties. All right, so Prussians get +1 on this charge. Thank God, something good for the French at last. We roll a 10.
I got 6.
All right, I think we're going to throw you back. Okay, rolling the charge for the Tsars, unless I get a double 6. No, I'm going to bounce off and take a casualty. So we both take a casualty, Charlie, and I fall back. All right, so let's do some shooting for turn 9. Charlie, your skirmish is going to be going.
3 dice. Just 2 casualties. 2 casualties.
That battalion collapses, and that'll be a fault test for my brigade. All right, Prussian have initiative in turn.
Wasn't it risk to general
10.
if the Italian's gone?
Yeah, you're right. Let's do a risk to general against that general. 8, he's fine.
I'll just put it back here.
Yeah, just pop him back there. All right. So turn 10, 3 turns to go, and
There's 2
it
turns
was
to go.
10, 11, and 12.
Oh, yes.
Prussian charges. No charges from the Prussians.
Yeah.
French charges. It doesn't look like there's any charges from the French this turn. Probably just some manoeuvring. All right, along with normal movement. Charlie, you to move first. So movement in turn 10. The French are still trying to break through. So they've moved up their line battalion, supported by the hussars this time. So that's from the skirmishers, Charlie. That battalion's taken no casualties. That's your skirmisher casualty marker you've just moved. So threatened by the hussars, we might have a go against this line next turn, and we're keeping the pressure up by keeping our hussars up here, keeping that other battalion, these other 2 battalions in the square to the longest extent possible. Right, Charlie, firing with your line battalion into the flank of my square. This will be an inferior volley. I don't believe it. Another 11, so I think that's 3 or 4 casualties and a discipline test. We'll take our discipline test.
-1.
8. They are fine, so we'll just mark them up. Right, another inferior volley. Charlie's back to his old tricks. Another brilliant volley. Why can't he get the 2s and 3s like I do? So that was a 9, so that's 2 more casualties. And a discipline test, this one will be at -1. Oh my gosh, that's a 1. I think it's all over for the French. So with a roll of 1, the unit retreats and loses a further 1d3 casualties. So we lose a further 1 casualty, and we have to retreat with them. Alright, it's turn 11. The supply convoy is not going to break through to the French forces that are trying to break the siege. And Charlie has caused my brigade and my battalion here to retreat. It's not a discipline test, fortunately, but I'm not going to get those carriages forward in 2 turns. But I'm still going to have a go, because there is a possibility I might, conceivably, be able to break his units if I can get them out of square. Charlie has got 2 active brigades. We'll roll for the French. Alright, so the French do have initiative. They are going to charge. This is a flank charge this time against that Lambert brigade.
But I do get to...
Okay, Charlie gets to... You do get to do a defensive volley from your square with passing fire as
and
as
try and form square.
Forecast. And you have to form square, but you do your passing fire first, because you never know. I think it's pretty impossible, but you might cause me to break and not charge home. So an inferior volley from your square. A 7 is 1 casualty, half effect is none, so that doesn't do anything. Okay, form square.
3.
They fail,
This is
and they're at -1, I think,
There's
because
some.
they're I think they retreat, actually.
That's actually better for me.
You retreat and you lose 1d3 casualties.
That's good for me.
So roll 1d3 casualties.
3, that doesn't matter. It's on 4. It's better for me, Dad.
Alright, so good result for the French, but unfortunately not the best. They charged that battalion, it was unable to form square. It got a retreat result, so it's fallen back 21
It's better
inches.
for me.
And it's actually worked out better for Charlie, because if I had charged home and they had not formed square but not retreated, it's simply been unformed, and if I'd had a charge on result, I could have potentially gone into the flank again of that Landwehr battalion and either destroyed them or caused them to retreat, which could have caused a break test on this brigade. As it is, I do get extra movement, but I can only complete my existing charge range, which is 21 inches, and I was back here. So 21 inches, they're about 23 inches away, so I cannot reach the Landwehr on the hill with that original charge move. So I can go into his skirmishers, but they'll have no effect on his brigade. I'm out of charge arc for going into the Landwehr in square, and charging into square is never great. So I think the French are in a not bad position at the moment, but they're still not going to be able to get the breakthrough, and night's falling and the pass is still held by the Prussians. So that's it at the end of turn 11, and I think we're going to call it there. So I hope you enjoyed this small game. Unfortunately for the French, their supply column barely got out of the village and only just reached the stream. It's still escorted by 2 pretty good strength battalions here, but they've not been able to. But they've not been able to. They don't have a full test because it's only a retreat result, Charlie. They weren't able to move up with their supporting cavalry, and I think that's the trick we failed to do. we got over enthusiastic, went in with the cavalry against those lines, and we weren't lucky. We did not manage to destroy the lines. We had a bit of unlucky dice rolling, and because our columns were too far back.
And it's a bit like your French cavalry hated you and just purposely just didn't want to do anything.
Because the columns were too far back, they weren't able to exploit by charging in against the Prussian squares. So we got to a good position, but unable to pull off the victory.
The only one was in Britain.
All right. I hope you've enjoyed the game, as I say. See you again next time. Thanks very much. Cheers, guys.